When teaching listening skills, we have to make sure a range of training techniques are employed and not rely on students to pick up by themselves what the language sounds like. This rarely happens, and a failure to employ training techniques may lead to the situation where learners may be highly competent in written skills or have an excellent knowledge of grammar, but be unable to comprehend the simplest of listening passages. First, however, we need to consider problem areas in listening, and then possible solutions to those difficulties. It's essential that we plan our listening activities and materials accordingly. Do a self-check 1 after the video to practice this. Now, we will have a look at different kinds of listening sub-skills. Students should be encouraged to practice extensive listening. For example, listen to the English language from various sources outside the classroom. Listen for pleasure. In this section, we will focus on the listening activities that take place inside the classroom and are referred to as intensive listening, like listening to relatively short dialogues or texts with a specific purpose. Such listening involves two main sub-skills: listening for gist and listening for detail. Listening for gist. There are times when we listen to something in order to get a general idea of the content, or the gist, rather than specific details. Sometimes we need to recognize the function of the dialogue. For example, is the speaker making arrangements, expressing an opinion, making an inquiry? Are the speakers discussing their opinions of a book they have both read, or are they having a row? At higher levels, intermediate and above, students need practice in recognizing attitude by work on intonation patterns and recognizing changes in direction or topic when listening to speeches, long texts, or taking notes in university lectures. Listening for detail. When we listen for detail, our attention is focused and we are searching for specific information in the listening passage. For example, we could be listening for details of the weather in our region, a train departure time, or the football results of our favorite team. As we listen carefully, we select the information we require and ignore the rest. There are several ways of training our students to develop the sub-skill of listening for detail. A. Prediction. By asking students to predict what they're going to hear, based on a topic word or sentence, you are preparing your learners for what to expect. Guided questions help them decide what to listen for and keep them focused on the main points. B. Comprehension exercises. Different types of exercises will ensure that listening skills are being fully developed. Exercises can be set midway as well as at the end of a listening passage and can be in the form of true, false questions, WH questions, who, what, where, sentence completion, gap filling, error correction, table filling, form filling, etc. C. Listening for language items. An exercise may require that you listen and identify specific lexical or grammatical items in a text. For example, note all the past participle forms of verbs or all the superlative adjectives. Listening for gist and listening for detail should be carried out separately from each other. It is difficult for students to do both at the same time. Check tasks to make sure that you do not have them trying to do too many things at once. When a new listening passage, a monologue or a dialogue is introduced, students will naturally want to know what it is generally about first and discover details later. So, it's logical to begin with gist exercises for the first listening and give detailed exercises for the second listening. Students often find listening exercises to be one of the most stressful parts of any lesson. The most stress is aroused when students are asked to listen cold, for example, when they are not prepared, and then perform an exercise. Therefore, it is important to activate schemata before they listen. That means discuss the general topic of the text and make students aware of what they already know about it, so that the new information they hear will be laid on some sort of foundation. That, in turn, will improve understanding. That's all about listening skills. We will move on to the reading skills in the next video.